Hey everybody, I hope you enjoyed my other videos for Vikings Gone Wild, my tutorial, my overview, and my sample gameplay videos. In this final video, I'm just going to give you my final thoughts and opinions on the game Vikings Gone Wild itself. Now, if you've been watching my channel for a while, you know that when it comes to Kickstarter-style games or any kind of reviews for those kind of games, I don't like to give too big a review for those games for the simple fact that a lot of things can change anywhere between the development of the game and when the game is finally released. You can see it with lots of games sometimes, where sometimes a game will be finished and then the final results of the game kind of change, or some different changes in the game that can either throw out the balance, adjust the balance, or anything like that. And that's why I don't like to do a lot of true reviews for games that are on Kickstarter. More of a preview, more of an idea of what's going to be available for the game, and kind of my thoughts on the game as it exists in the current state it currently is in, which kind of comes to the point I'm trying to make right here. This is actually the second time I'm recording this preview overview video right here. I'm going to just basically go over my thoughts of the game. See, the original time when I did the original video for this, I had some couple thoughts and a couple concerns for the basic game. And don't get me wrong, there's nothing wrong with the game. The game is actually very enjoyable. I enjoy the theme, and the really cool thing about the game is that the theme is one of those themes that you can get non-gamers into. I mean, I can sit down some real true gamers with a game such as Dominion. They're going to get into the game and understand the concept of the game. But if I sat down with a game like Dominion with people who are non-board gamers, they're going to get bored, roll their eyes in their head, and probably not pay attention at all. Whereas opposed, I can just say a game like Viking Gone Wild, I can say this is a deck builder, we're trying to get gold, we're trying to get beer, and we're trying to stomp each other, and suddenly I have everybody's attention, which is the cool thing about the game on the theme. But there are a couple things I actually noticed about the game when I started playing the game. Now, the game is really well done. It's got a very light theme. There's some really cool things that they built into the game, but there's some things I noticed as I started playing the game. One of the things I noticed about the game is some of the Divine Favor cards were a little bit misbalanced. Some of the Divine Favor cards, one of them in particular, was really unbalanced in a two-player game, but it wasn't that bad in a four-player game. And there's one of the cards that was really not that really worth it in a two-player game. Basically allow you to steal resources from other players, and obviously you can understand a card like that is going to be more powerful and going to be better the more players you have in the game. So in a two-player game, not that great of a card. Four-player game, really great card, especially when you start getting the engine rolling, you start getting all your resources, and the game keeps on playing. So those are some of the things I noticed. I also noticed that when you start playing the four-player game, 30 points just wasn't enough to play to. It almost made the game feel like it was coming to an end a little bit too quickly and a little bit too soon. So what we wanted is we wanted a 40-point game, but the problem is there's not enough cards in the game to make it for a 40-point game. Now the two-player game does go to 40 points. It does seem like a good ending point. It doesn't seem too long, too short, and it seems like the game has just come to an end at a point where it starts starting to feel like it may be at the time where it should end. Not too long, not too short. But the three and the four-player game just seemed like it was ending too quickly when it came up to 30 points. We were just kind of like, if only we could have one more round or two more rounds, maybe that engine we were building could really come into play. But the only problem is there's not enough cards, there's not enough components in the game to make a four-player game go all the way up to 40 points. You ran out of Divine Favor cards. You started running out of all the other kind of cards you need, and you especially started running out of the mission cards. There definitely were not enough mission cards in the game to get it up to that four-player, 40-point game. So we understood why the game had to come to an end at 30 points, but we wanted the game to go a little bit further. That's something else we wanted from the game. We also really appreciated when we played the game that there was multiple victory conditions for the final scoring. There's different things that players were playing for. You had 10 different varieties. Only 4 of those things were going to be in the final game, so it made the game play differently every single time you play the game, which was really cool and we really appreciate it. But again, there were some things that we wanted to see differently. So after I recorded my video, I was in email contact with the designer of the game, and I said, hey, I really enjoyed the game, had a lot of fun with it. My group thought it was awesome. We thought the replay was there. Lots of good decisions, even though it had a light theme. We wanted to play more of it because we saw strategies, different ways to play. We didn't see any one specific strategy that seemed to be dominating the game. Heck, one time I played the game trying to just see if I can break it, because that's what I like doing with Kickstarter games. Sorry to all you designers out there. But when a game is on Kickstarter, for some reason, something in my brain says, I must break this game and try to be extra hard on it. Just the way I am. Sorry about that. But I tried very different strategies and just try to play dumb or try to break the game, and I really was never able to break the game. And for me, that shows a really solid game design. I even one time tried to just say, hey, all the victory points are in attacking other players, so I'm just going to buy combat cards directly. And all the other players said, hey, he's buying all the combat cards, let's stop him from doing it. So they all shot me down, and I lost horribly at that game. I think the final winner had about 15 or 17 points on me, and I hadn't even broke 20 points yet, while everybody was in the 30s and low 30s in a four-player game. So that showed there was different strategies of the game, and there's no specific strategy that's going to really dominate the game. So I found that really cool about the different strategies of the game. But again, like I said, I was in contact with the designer. There's a few things I thought that should be changed, and the designer got back with me and started sharing some of the things that are going to be changing in the final release of the game. The first big change that they told me they're going to do is they're going to change one of the big rules and one of the fundamental rules for the game. And this is actually a change I really, really appreciate. Now, if you watch my tutorial video, you saw there's a place on the marketplace where one player can spend 4 gold to shuffle their entire discard pile into the draw pile. And while that was a nice idea, it was something that I and all my plays, I've never seen any of the players do. While it seemed like a great idea, it seemed like by the time you'd want to do that, the game was almost coming to an end. Now, let's be honest here, I played this game mostly as a 3 and a 4 player game. Actually, almost predominantly as a 4 player game with 2 3-player games and 2 2-player games. But it seemed like whenever this game played out, everybody wanted to play it, so we always had 4 players wanting to play, which is a good thing, but it does mean that there may have been some things I didn't see in a 2-player game, but definitely in the 4-player game, the ability to spend 4 gold to go in and shuffle your entire discard pile and your draw pile just wasn't happening that often. And the other thing that I also noticed is that there are some quests that actually became impossible. Sorry, I keep calling them quests. I know they're missions. But there are some missions that became impossible to complete because some kind of condition was no longer possible. One of the big missions that comes to mind off the top of my head is a mission where you could buy a Pigator, and if you did, you got some victory points for doing it. Well, there's only 4 Pigators in the game, so if you end up getting that mission card late in the game, you'd be stuck with a mission that was impossible to win. So you're kind of double handicapped. One, you have a mission that you can't complete, and now you also have a mission slot that's not even available to you because all the players have 2 mission slots. You're stuck with 1 mission slot because that 1 mission is just going to basically block you till the game comes to an end. So basically what the designer is going to be doing is that one rule in the game allows you to spend 4 gold to shuffle your discard pile back into your draw pile. That can be removed, and that's going to be replaced with the ability to spend 2 gold and go ahead and shuffle any mission that you can't complete or don't want to complete back into the draw pile, shuffle it all back up, and then you're going to draw another mission card, which is really cool, which kind of kills 2 birds with 1 stone. One, it gets rid of something I didn't see being used that often, and also got rid of kind of a handicap that kind of could occasionally pop up, kind of clog up a player, and kind of diminish the player's ability to score victory points. So they kind of did 2 things at one time, which I thought was really, really awesome. I thought that was a really good change. The next thing they're doing is that the demo copy or the preview copy of the game I got came with 18 Divine Favor cards. Now, like I said, there were a couple of those Divine Favor cards that they had their player counts where they were really awesome at, but at some player accounts it kind of stuck out that they weren't working that great. Now, the designer got back with me and let me know that when the final game actually releases, when the Kickstarter copies go out, there's actually going to be 12 Divine Favor cards in the game only, not the 18. Now, this is going to do 2 big things for the game. One, it's going to get rid of those imbalances caused by the Divine Favor cards. It's also going to cause the Divine Favor stack to change up the strategies of the game, because the players now have less Divine Favor cards to access, and now those Divine Favor cards are very powerful, and that's kind of the cool thing for the game, because all the players can eventually get those Divine Favor cards. You know, most people are going to get 3 of them if they just follow the score track, and of course if you're attacking other players' capital buildings, or the big shelters, or town halls, sorry about that. If you're attacking other players' town halls that have been built up, you can also get more of those Divine Favor cards. But now there's a race for all the players because now there's less Divine Favor cards available. There's less cards for players to get, and now they're going to be a much more desired resource because players are going to feel the pressure of wanting to get those cards as quickly as possible. Now, there's one other thing that's being changed with the game, which I think is going to be really, really cool, is they're going to change the final victory conditions for the end game. Now, like I said, the game does play for 40 points in a 2-player game, 30 points in a 3 to 4-player game, and I thought that made the 3 and a 4-player game come to an end just a little bit too quickly for me. So what they're going to do is they're going to change that either in a variant or make an official rule. I don't know exactly what they're going to do yet, but he did explain to me the reasons why behind that decision. It did make sense to me. The main concern for the designer was that when you add more victory points, obviously the game is going to take longer to win. So he had a concern that when you add more victory points, it make a longer game, and some people would be less happy about that. So there's probably still going to be a way to play to 30 victory points for 3 to 4 players, and there may be a variant that's going to allow you to play to more for people who like games where they want to get their strategies going, get their engines building going, and try to make out a long game where their long-term strategies will play out. So that's going to be very, very cool. Of course, that does mean that they might have to add extra cards to the game, or they may have to do something like that, but I'm sure the designer has a really good idea on exactly what he's going to do to help the game play up to 40 points and make that 3 and a 4-player game go a little bit longer for players who like strategy in their game. But that's enough about the reasons why I had to reshoot this video. Now let's go on to a game of Vikings Gone Wild itself. Now, Vikings Gone Wild is a very well-designed game. It's a light thematic game, which is really cool. It allows you to play with the less traditional gamers, not the hardcore gamers, but it does have a lot of strategy in the game, making this game a lot deeper, a lot more strategic than simple games such as Quarriors or games that really don't have a lot of long-term strategy. This is a game where you're having decisions every single round, and your decisions are never blindingly obvious. Your decisions in this game are based on exactly what the other players are doing. This is not one of those games where you can blindly just build your own engine, be oblivious to what all the other players are doing, and hope to win the game at the end of the game, because you're going to lose. You're going to lose horribly, and I've pretty much proven that to myself by trying to play the game to various different strategies totally ignoring the other players. And every time I've done that, the other players have watched what I've done, defeated my strategy, and I've lost this game pretty darn terribly. So I can pretty much say that this is a light thematic game with a lot of deep strategy, which makes the game pretty darn awesome. I also like the built-in variety of the game, which is going to guarantee this game is never going to play exactly the same way every single time you play it. Because you have different victory conditions, those extra victory points that other players are playing for at the end of the game can make a huge difference. If somebody plays a strategy right, they can get anywhere from 12 all the way up to 24 extra victory points. If they're basically playing smart, playing to certain strategies, and again, watching what the other players are doing, you're going to get some extra victory points there. So that becomes a very dominant and very possible strategy to kind of lag while you're playing the game, but in the end game, get those extra victory points and win the game. And of course, that's going to change up every time you play the game because you have 10 different possible cards you're going to throw in there, but only 4 of those cards are going to work towards the end of the game victory points, of course, unless you go for the tiebreaker. So you have the extra variety there, but you also have the extra variety of the way the Divine Favor cards come out every time you play. The Odin's River cards are going to come out different every time you play, and all this is going to add to the variety and the different strategies of how you play the game every single time you play it. And replay and extra values always something very, very awesome anytime you open up a board game. Heck, that's one of the biggest complaints of some of the more popular board games out there, such as Time Stories out there right now. A great game that is being hampered by a lot of people's opinion that you play it once and you're done. Definitely not the story with Vikings Gone Wild. This is one of those games you're going to play over and over again because you have a light theme with a lot of strategy thrown in there to make the game really enjoyable. Vikings Gone Wild goes live in May. If you want to learn more about the game, make sure you check out the Kickstarter when it goes live in May. Hope you enjoyed this video series. If you have any comments or questions, make sure you leave them in the YouTube comments down below. I'll be sure to answer them as quick as I can and to the best of my abilities. And of course, I'll also email the designer of the game. He'll probably come over there and answer your questions also if he has time to do so. If you enjoyed this video series and you want to see more like them, click that like button, click that subscribe button. And also, if you want, you can help support the channel on Patreon. Now, this channel operates without any sponsorships, without any Kickstarter funds. Basically, everything is self-funded by myself, from the camera equipment to the upgraded backgrounds to everything like that. So if you want to help support this, you can go over to Patreon and look up Off the Shelf Board Games on Patreon. I'll put a link down in the comments down below if you're interested. As always, thanks for watching.